Okay, well, there's got to be a way to do this where I can see everybody.
Lisa, you're blocking the computer. We're recording. Okay, it's
Oh, I
January.
didn't know we were recording.
Oh, we are?
I told you that.
I said the Three Stooges.
I know, I'm sorry.
I've been going on a
I'm
rampage.
kind of joking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
For all of those who are watching this Comedy Central show here, it's January 30th, 2018, and it's 7:34 p.m. on the East Coast in Tennessee. And we have three mustaches there and behind their cups. Okay, so tonight what we're going to do is I have all of Katie's notes, and I've highlighted a bunch of things on there that I'd like to get specific details on. And I don't think once you see what I've picked, you'll object in any way. And I'm talking to the audience. Okay.
Perfect.
So the first thing you have is HATJ finishes factual narrative. And the first note on page 1, very top, talks about how UCC secured for all in the world. Could you expand a little bit on what she said there that you remember?
Oh, she kind of went through, like in the beginning of today, she just went through and broke down how the UCC secured like everybody in the world's money, like secured it for them and protected it from like the banks. And then she described that very well for them so that it was easy to understand. I guess I don't know if you want to elaborate.
I'd kind of like to back up a little bit, and this might have even taken place yesterday, but she tried to bring out what was secured originally in 2000, which I did not comprehend until that moment.
And you're talking, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. You're talking about Charles Miller and the first UCC filing. It's called the perpetuity, and it is on the IUB. Go ahead.
Yes, that's correct. When she was trying to explain to the jury that actually took place first to secure all the property for everyone, specifically in the United States, as well as around the world, but specifically in the United States, property and personages, actually. And of course, that was not allowed, as we know, and they objected. So because the defense entered the factualized trust that Randy was using into their exhibits.
You mean the prosecution? You mean the
prosecution? Yes, the prosecution.
Okay.
Yes, because the government entered that into as their exhibits, and it contained all of that information in the factualized trust. That opened the door for her to speak on it, whether she was allowed to show them the UCC filings or not.
And just to make a note, she has tried to show the UCC filings, and they will not allow it.
No.
Right.
They will, anytime she tries to actually physically show it, they don't allow it.
Well, because she was trying to.
Well, I should say that's okay, because in the factualized trust, each of the UCC filings that the One People's Public Trust 1776 filed, which gathered back all of the beings on the planet's property, whether it's real and physical or their tangible value within themselves.
Right.
So actually, it's a great demonstration tool because they won't let you see the UCC, but all of them in the factualized trust points to it. So it kind of keeps making the point over and over and over again every time they don't let you show it and every time she discusses it. So it's actually, Source has laid it out perfectly. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But the only reason I brought it up was because when she tried to show that one, the one that was the perpetuity with Charles Miller, and it was not allowed, I just wanted to lay that foundation, that she tried to lay that foundation first, because in trying to have them comprehend everything. But again, because they did their objections and all of that, which, like you said, it was perfect because it has allowed, but also because they submitted them, because of the factualized trust being submitted by the government as a part of their prosecution evidence, it opened the door because they are listed on the factualized trust.
Yep.
And so she did get to talk about them. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. So please continue.
No, I mean, that's all it was, is she just briefly summed up what they meant.
Right. Well, the reason I highlighted is because you guys are in the story and you know the story, but there's an awful lot of people who are watching who haven't read the documents.
Yes.
And shocker. And who don't know the story. So I want to highlight that, and I'll just say it, is that what Heather did, along with the other 3 trustees, the latter trustees, there were 4 originally, and then there are 3, Randall Hillard and, okay, now his name is going to fly right out of my brain.
Was it Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb, sorry. Caleb Carr. So all the UCC filings, they secured, a simple way to term it is everything for all beings on the planet. And, you know, one might say, everything, what do you mean by that? Well, you can go read the filings. It's very simple to understand, and reading them out loud will actually help you. But you are the value, first of all. And so they secured all of your intrinsic value just in your being. And that is what creates all of the, what you would term as the monetary value and instruments on a global scale in anything that you can think of. That's because you are here on the planet and you are the value. So if you want to hold it in a very, very, very linear aspect, if something is purportedly gold backed, you are one big cosmic sized chunk of gold. Each you. And I'm not sure if they're frozen or what, the audio, video. Are you guys there? Hello? Yeah, we lost them. Okay, well, we lost them. Maybe they'll come back in. Let's text them. You're on mute. Mute.
All right.
Yeah, we got booted off completely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. That's okay. I did a little tap dance number while you were gone.
Yay.
Okay, now I'm going to page 4. Towards the bottom. It's the one right after they talk about Exhibit 20. There were over 10 million transactions, so you want to just give us a little bit of that? And that'll help people understand the scope of what actually was going on.
Yeah, where did she say she got the 10 million transactions from? That's what people sent to her. Because she said she got over 300,000 emails, is what Heather said, from people that had
Yeah, that's
access
individual
to the accounts.
emails, though. That's what she was saying. It was individual emails.
Right, but also this one here, the 10 million transactions, that's from all of the inside data from the organization operation.
Right.
Okay.
Cleanup, that's where that's coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I know that when she started talking about that, they objected to it.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was because they were like, well, who told her that it was hearsay. Yeah, and so she said, well, like, I'm trying to explain to you guys what you're gonna see. Like, I haven't had a chance to enter it all into evidence yet because I'm just giving you my factual narrative, So she didn't have the chance. I mean, I guess, I don't know, can she do it during her factual narrative, or that's just her time just to talk about everything?
Well,
That's her testimony.
Yeah, it's her testimony.
Because they, they're objecting at every turn, of course, and so you know, she wanted to say that was hearsay because she had nothing to prove where this was coming from, where this information was coming from. And if I'm not mistaken, he sustained that objection, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's
He
what I thought.
sustained it. Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't let her enter into the record because you have a note here too of the emails and stuff. So where this data was coming from, they don't want that in the record either.
No,
Yeah.
they don't.
Well, because in the emails had all the UCCs and everything in it. Yeah. So of course they didn't want that in there.
Right.
Which is
So I like that. She can't answer a question with data because they won't allow the data that she'd answer the question with. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now on page number 5, you have at the top of the page, I'd like you to go into that one.
Okay. Talks about how you guys probably read this too, so you can think about it. Okay, so this is when she was talking about
Heather was talking about.
yeah, sorry. Heather was talking about when she was contacted that they offered her, what was it, $1 billion?
Oh, she was
Or they
contacted and offered access
offered
to
access
her
to her
own
account.
secret account,
Yeah.
and she turned it down.
Yeah, and they said they said that they'd offer her access, and that if she chose not to, that her family and everyone that she knew would be in danger. And so of course the second she said this, Davidson jumped up and objected, you know, saying, oh well, it's hearsay because she's saying that someone told her that. And he overruled it. And then she finished explaining everything, because I don't know if she said it went to her intent. She was able to explain why it tied into everything. So he overruled it and she continued going with it. But yeah, I find that interesting that they objected.
Okay, and then a little further down on the page there, where it says Heather's talking about how Parker Still, and depending on what part of the country you're in Tennessee, it's spelled for Special Agent Parker Still as Still, and you can look that up on the IUV. There is the grand jury testimony, and well, you haven't seen the testimony transcripts for this one, but there is a grand jury testimony in Tennessee, and it's spelled Still. If you go back to the IUV, you will see the same gentleman, the same voice recognition, the same facial recognition, same special agent, purportedly, spells his name on record under oath as Still. So can you tell us what you're saying there? He's talking about his orders came from?
Am I on the right part of this?
Tell us where his orders came from.
Yeah,
Page 5.
right here.
Yeah.
Yes, she was. Heather was indicating that Parker Still was and is being ordered, if you will, by the Federal Reserve to take these actions.
Right.
And I have to tell you that at that point in her testimony, I personally saw Mr. Parker Still become very agitated and nervous.
I bet.
And squirming in his chair.
Yeah, he was going back and forth.
Yes, yeah, he was.
Her like,
And he just got very squirmy in his chair. So
well,
I found
this is important. Another moment, you guys just illustrated another moment for lots of compassion and those who feel moved to send him lots of love. One of the reasons for the squirm is severalfold, but one of the reasons for the squirming is it's an open court. This has come out. His handlers, shall we say, which goes far beyond the FRB, which is the Federal Reserve Bank, way, if you catch my drift, beyond that,
yes.
have not been pleased with his carrying out of his directives. And so the compassion comes in for, too, that with this coming out in open court, his life is...
Yes, I have to tell you that immediately I felt concern for his well-being.
Yes.
And I feel that he also became concerned for his well-being, not from any one of the possible pitchfork-carrying humans,
not us.
but from his employers and, or as you said, not the puppets, but the puppet masters, as that's
The handlers. So
Yeah.
one thing too that I think it's important, because some people are getting this going, yep, they got it. They can, if they don't know it cognitively, they can feel it. Some people are going. So that's why doing your research is really helpful, right? But one of the things too to understand is that this is universal cleanup.
Yeah.
So everything in everyone's power and powers will be done to make sure that he's in a cloak of protection as well, because that's how compassion rolls. It isn't if you do this or you do that, or
I can vouch for that, because my guidance has been very strong that I am to put love and bubbles of protection around them, the government in particular, and the judge. And I've been just steady at that, and it feels as though all of us in the courtroom have been under energetic targeting.
Yep.
I hate to say attack, but and I've been vigilant with all of the bodies in the courtroom, because we are all source embodied and we are all part of the cleanup crew.
right.
I think that's a really important point, VZ, and I'm glad that Lisa brought that up at this juncture, because we are talking about Mr. Parker Still in this respect, because that is something that later on in the redirect that the government, Ms. Cynthia Davidson did bring up in regards to Mr. Still, in a very agitated manner, in regards to his quote-unquote personal information being put on the internet, which I found a bit strange. But at any rate, those of us that are right there in the courtroom, there is not one of us that is here that is not feeling compassion and love for these folks.
Yes.
And I think that's important to share with everyone, to make sure that we all get the memo and pass it out to everyone else we come into contact with.
Love is the solution.
Right. Well, the other thing too that's really important to you guys are, your audio is blank again. Hold on.
Situation we are facing.
Your audio is all garbled on that. Lisa, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's saying.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, but
What about now?
myself in the audience can't hear you you guys at all.
Oh,
So
man.
I'm going to say that real quick what Lisa said. Excuse me, because I'm going to paraphrase, because I heard what she said.
Thank
So
you.
she said that love and compassion is going out, and all of the people that are in Tennessee are doing that. And what I wanted to add to that is, this is all choice points for everyone. And as you start to see more and more things revealed, and you start to realize that, the people in this video and Heather and Randy and others and you're all going, maybe they weren't so crazy, but this is really weird stuff. Okay. But this is a choice point, because if you have the reaction to, and you're going, this is just a few shavings on the tip of the iceberg of what is going to come to fruition. Okay. And what is going to come out into the open. And the hashtag release the memo, that's like some shavings of one shaving of the ice cube. That's not even a few shavings. And what I mean by a choice point is, in order for you to raise your frequency vibration, whether you understand that or not, It doesn't matter. It's what's happening. And in order to do that, compassion and your heart opening is the way to do that. So what this is an opportunity for each individual to see this stuff, process what's going on, what they're hearing, the feelings and reactions that come up. And, I can guarantee that many of you will be horrified and pissed off and furious and, all sorts of other words. And no one, certainly not me, is asking you not to feel those things if that's what you feel. What I'm asking you to do is to integrate that. So you see it, if you've got to go outside and hop up and down and jump and kick dirt and all that kind of stuff to help you process what's going on and move beyond it, then do it. But don't wallow in it. Don't grab the pitchfork. Or if you do, grab it and do it at an inanimate dirt or something on the ground and, hop up and down mad and then take a deep breath and let it go. Because we are all part of this. Some are directly involved, some are indirectly involved, and all the others are complicit. And the only way that you can get, as we said last night, to where you want to go, we all want to go, which is the most amazing thing that you can imagine. And I can tell you that your imagination is not up to the task of imagining where we're all headed and very shortly here. But integration is the way you get there, not being hopping mad about it.
Right.
So just, and that's something you have to figure out on your own. There's a lot of beings who will help you. There's a lot of beings who are showing you that just by the very way that they flow in the world. But it's up to each individual being to take that in on their own. Okay, so I want to go to page 8 now. And it's about here on the page. And it said, who asked you to be in the Universal Cleanup?
Okay, I
yeah.
know. Well, her answer was Commander Thorax,
Mm-hmm.
and not right away.
No, I know, but we'll get to that him in a minute. It's the notation here that I particularly like because again, we're having some revealing here. This is a good process for people to start to do some research. It's also a good process for integration here. So I particularly like the way Katie phrased this note. So you go ahead and read your note and then elaborate from there.
Well, she said it's the person, it is the person who asks all to participate in other programs, such as a secret space program. So that's what she based it around. And then Davidson went into saying, okay, well, like, who is that person? Like, tell me who that person is.
Wanted a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to that later in your notes.
Okay, well, that's just what I have right after that. So yeah, she just talked about the person asks everyone who participates in all these programs, and then just use the secret space program as like a reference for it.
Right. And one of the reasons to use the secret space program as a reference for it is because it's more things that need to be revealed. That's like saying Parker Still, was given directives from the Federal Reserve Bank. That's like talking about bets, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so on page 9, so in the middle of the page, around the question, I'm assuming this is Davidson asking the question, you worked in human capital. So tell us about that and what Heather's, and no, it's not human resources.
Yeah, so she wanted the more explanation behind what human capital meant. And Heather began to explain like how we're registered, how we're each registered, and that's what is considered human capital. Like we're considered human capital. And then she also mentioned in other parts of it that banks even have like specific officers who are in charge of what they consider like the human capital. So
Not just banks, but corporations as well.
yes, yeah. So that they all have that.
Multinational.
Multinational, yeah, she said that too.
Right.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, that she spoke then too about why and how the UCC, that was exactly why, because human capital is moved around on the planet. And that is exactly why the UCC covers
Yes.
Human capital, and why that Form 1649, which talks about government property and goods in shipment, in transit, actually covers what they refer to as human capital. And this, well, for me personally, knowing about the birth certificate and how it is on bond paper and all of that makes perfect sense as to why all of it is registered in that way. And that is what has given them access to set all of this up in the way that they have.
Right. And I'm going to interject here. There have been recordings that Heather and I have done when she was doing her tour of the U.S. at the various hotels. And go watch the videos. They're good videos, and you'll understand what the hotel is in the tour. But she does reference a couple times about a phone call that she and I had. And I think the first time she referenced it, she said, was like 2 or 3, and then she stops and she says, oh no, well that was, a long time ago, because it was early in the spring, in March I believe it was, and so she was thinking, just the other day, well, she'd be on this tour for a while, so the other day was, at least 5 months earlier. But the reason I bring that up is part of the phone call, that part of what we talked about in that phone call was she was sharing with me her research that she was just completing on all of the actual logistics and specificity and particularity about how revenue was being generated and loosed, so loosed free from the foreclosed corporation because of signatures and all that from each individual being, with a quote unquote refugee crisis. And that's why so many beings were being shipped, moved into this country, moved into other countries, and the movement of those people, right? You could also think of them as cattle, because they certainly think of us that way. Moved away. It was a way for them to loose some funds for themselves. And when you see the sanctuary cities in this particular country, and you hear in the mainstream media that they're talking about how California comes to mind as one of them, but it's in other places as well, that they've been given specific orders to fight the feds about this and to disregard all federal laws, all federal agencies and everything, because there are major funding that they received in kickbacks for this. And that has all to do with the again, it's another form of human trafficking. But anyways, all that's going to come out real shortly here. You absolutely do not take my word for it, because you'll have lots of different sources that you can see it in black and white. Okay, now I'd like to go. We're doing pretty good on time, guys. Okay, now I want to go. I know you guys want to get a shower and everything before the next the next transcript arrives. Okay, page 14. So page 14. I think I numbered them right. At the bottom, the last note paragraph starts with Heather can't believe.
Yeah, Heather can't believe the FRB is stupid enough to make it where people can access the accounts from their phones. So I don't know if you guys remember her talking about it, but she was like, seriously, she's like, I can't believe, like, she was getting so passionate about this part of the cross-examination that I remember her saying, she's like, they can't be that stupid to create these accounts to where people can literally get to it from their phones, like from their iPhones, and it's like, hello, thank you. Like, somebody's just talking in like common sense, like, let's go people, come on. And so that was like that was pivotal for me. I love that. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I was like, yes, tell them, Heather, tell them.
Well, yeah, because that's the one thing that I feel like has really been missed by any and every person that tries to say this is bullshit that I have seen comments on or whatever. It's like, come on, folks, do a little thinking. Haven't you ever tried to enter in a routing number and an account number and you accidentally hit one number wrong and it doesn't accept it? Everybody on the planet knows that's how that goes. So you're going to tell me that some boob out here accidentally gets a right number and it goes through and he got $30 million.
Oh, it just happens to be a Social Security number.
Yeah, that just happens to be a Social Security number.
Ladies, details. Come on, you know, picky.
I know.
Okay.
How dare we? How dare we cover the actual facts and not some hearsay bullshit and making them look a certain way?
Yeah, but only the facts that the judge tells you can enter into evidence.
Oh.
Any other?
That too. Yes, that too. Yep.
Okay, on page 16. Davidson is asking, I like this. She's asking about a Dr. Seuss character, Thorax.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Is it Dr. Seuss or what she said? Or she said World of Warcraft?
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so funny because she was like, so Miss Tucci, Miss Tucci Giraffe, you're saying, you mentioned that a Commander Thorax told you about this universal cleanup. She's like, did you know? She's like, do you play video games, Miss Heather Ann Tucci Giraffe? Like, do you play video games? And Heather was like, no, but my kids do. Like, maybe I can ask them. And she was like,
yeah, that's when she asked, are you aware that in World of Warcraft there's a character, a Commander Thorax?
Yeah.
Now, I too thought of the Dr. Seuss character. However, that is the Lorax.
Yeah, I know.
So that's not quite right.
Yeah.
But
I know.
they were mentioned.
It just came to mind. I thought
Same depth.
It was hilarious how that's the thing. She tried to frame it that way, and then Heather was like, "That's not what I said," and everybody was like, "Ooh!" Like, I was like, "Ooh!" She didn't say that. She said Thorax.
right,
It was
and it's
just
spelled
funny.
Thorac. But what I want you to, the reason I highlight that is not to play with Cynthia Davidson, but more what Heather describes underneath there. So read exactly the way you wrote it, loud and clear, and see if that sinks into some people who are listening.
Which part?
Right underneath.
Works
Oh,
with,
okay. Works with all forms of military.
say it again.
Works with all forms of military.
Right.
All forms.
ALL, yes, and BZ's pointing up.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I missed that. But I mean, I knew that.
I saw that you missed it. That's why I pointed that out.
Okay, page 17.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just wrote
Well,
out.
Sorry if I don't mean to step on you, but there are times you're going robo over there with your audio and video, so I'm trying to move along on this side, hoping by the time you unfreeze, you'll go to the right page. Okay, page 17. At the very top. So this is RKB is crossing on Heather. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so he asks her to start describing what, because she mentions foreign actor a lot.
Right.
And so he's like, well, can you just give me like a description on what that actually means? And so she talks, okay, well, it's anyone outside of the USA. So she talked about Putin. Well, not anyone, I think she said it could be outside of the USA, but also, what is it, anyone acting as like a threat to the USA.
Well, the way I understood what was being said was that a foreign actor is taking their orders from someone that has not got the interests of the United States in mind.
And she mentioned Putin, Bill Gates, the Rothschilds.
Well, Bill Gates Sr. to be
Bill Gates Sr.
exact.
Yes. Yeah, and those were a few. And she went to like go list all of them. And she's like, well, there's a lot. And he was like, no, I just wanted like a good example of it.
And so,
That's what she was talking about there.
and then after she specifies the Rothschilds, English, Swiss, and French family lines. And then just read me the next line after that, where you talk about 2 other countries.
Yeah, so she also said that China and Russia were the biggest players because they had, or they're the biggest players involved in giving orders because they had the most to lose out of all of it.
Okay, great.
So out of all of them, they were the 2 biggest ones.
Right. Okay. All right. And then on the bottom, towards the bottom of that same page 17, this is Heather talking right here where it says Randy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
just tell us a
on
little
that
bit about
part,
that.
Yeah, so she was Heather, or Randy, I forget the question that Randy had asked her, but it was along the lines of why Heather felt that Randy was in imminent danger when it came to everything happening.
Yeah.
And she responded by saying, well, it was because you exposed a lot of things that they didn't want people to know, such as the secret space program. And she said a couple of other things too. I didn't write it down verbatim what she said, but right when she started, I just remember when I heard secret space program, that's when they objected to it. And Randy was like, well, she mentioned it before, so I just want an explanation on it. Like, it was brought up during her testimony, so I want her to elaborate on that. And
Well, because she was referring to Randy as human fodder, as well as possibly others, as in some FBI agents and other folks that were possible human fodder. And Randy asked for clarification on that.
Right.
And the fact that because of how quickly it was done and how large his specific testing, his specific testing that he did, made him human fodder almost immediatally. And so that is why he asked for that clarification in regards to the space program.
Right, because certain camps, shrub camps, wanted to find out what more he knew before dispatching him.
Yes. Well, it also came out, if I'm not mistaken, at that time as to what she was actually doing.
Yeah, well, that's what we're getting. That's what we're
Or
getting to
she
next.
is.
Yeah. Okay, so page 18.
Yep.
Page 18. At the very top, Randy's asking this question. You guys are frozen again. Randy asked, what was the ultimate goal of the universal cleanup?
Yep. Randy wanted to know what the yeah. Can you no. Can you see that?
Are we still frozen,
Can you see
BC?
us now?
No, you're frozen, kind of not. Keep going. Just keep talking. We'll catch you.
Okay, so when he asked that, they immediately objected to it. And they asked him for his, relevancy on why he was asking that. And he was like, well, she mentioned it during her, testimony. Like, I want her to elaborate. I want details on what that is, because since she already brought it up. So Varlin actually allowed it. Varlin was like, okay. I'm like, come on, Varlin, come on. I was like, come on. And so she starts talking about how everyone knows that there is something wrong. Like, everybody in the world, or knows there's something wrong with the systems. but there's just not, I mean, not to the, I guess it's just if we feel powerless or we just don't, I mean, you have that underlying knowing that something is wrong, but you just don't know, either you can't put your finger on it or you don't know how to fix it. And so people ignore it. And so she went into talking about how the biggest way or the best way in order to starting to fix all that was by freezing those accounts, because if you froze their accounts, then it makes them harder to do perform acts of terrorism and all of that. And so right when they start talking about terrorism and everything, of course Davidson jumps up and she objects to all of that. She's like, this has nothing to do with terrorism, and it's going on and on about that.
Let me stop you there for a second, because you said on day 4, I believe it was, when the sovereign citizen came up and Varlin was asked, and he stated unequivocally, absolutely, undeniably, you get he's saying the same thing over and over again, that they were not categorized as sovereign citizens because the government's own in their playbook that those are terrorists, right? Yes. So we can't be talking about terrorists. We don't want to paint them as terrorists, because then Heather, they know HATJ will then come up and say and describe about the real terrorists that are hidden in plain sight in this country with household names, and they're not the people who live in a hole and get found across, in Iraq, in a hole that was on prime time for hours. You know the gentleman I'm talking about there.
So this actually reminds me, so Christian Alexander, who was there in the courtroom, he actually brought this up yesterday, that when O'Malley was on the stand, O'Malley talked about, I think Heather asked some questions in regards to how they categorize certain groups of people, and O'Malley brought up the fact that sovereign citizen is the way that they created that term to categorize people. And so, so I just wanted to throw that in there, because I don't know if we talked about that. I don't know. I think you did. I remember it happening, but it wasn't up that it clicked for me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
No.
It did
Okay.
talk about that. And then, like I said, there was the question brought up about, because Heather started to go that way, because she wanted to actually get Varlin's response the way he did about sovereign citizens. No, we don't. Right. This case is not about sovereign citizens.
Right.
Where, although in Judge Shirley's courtroom in October, you bet it was all about sovereign citizens. So they realized that tack was not working for them, because it entered terrorists into the mix. And then, that gives Heather the opening door which is why Cynthia was hopping up and down. Okay, page 19. And when you say here, Heather does the cross, and I'm assuming that's for RKB, is that correct?
No, this was her or was this her redirect? That wrong. This was her redirect from everything that happened with Randy and with Davidson.
Okay, so she's redirecting on her own.
Yeah, so she's just going through and talking, making her own points.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So then at the bottom there, 19, you have the note that says, why was she chosen? So she's telling us why she was chosen, or Cynthia Davidson is asking why she's chosen? Heather's telling us why she was chosen.
Well, Cynthia Davidson had asked why she was chosen. And so Heather she started to, because when Davidson objected to what she was stating, she started to ask a question and then answer the question to help clarify it. So Davidson had asked the question why she was chosen. So she wanted to reiterate and get back into why it was they chose her to be in charge of this particular part of the Universal Cleanup.
Well, to be fair, it's not, they asked her and she had to consider it.
Oh yeah, she says
while.
It took her 10 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
To decide whether or not she was going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just goes into her belief systems that played into why they chose her, as well as they needed somebody who was not going to be susceptible to any type of bribes.
Right.
So that was a big part of it. And so she went in and elaborated on that.
Right.
Oh,
And
wow,
and I'm going to add in here that not susceptible to bribes, notwithstanding any form of incentive
Yep.
that is not a bribed incentive to coerce her into taking those bribes. She is not
Yep.
susceptible to those either. Okay, and then the last part on page 19 at the bottom, you have the next header there. Okay, so describe that, please.
So she wanted to clarify human capital. And what stuck out to me was like, she was like, it's you, and it's you, and it's you, and it's you, and it's all of us. And I was like, that to me was
I think it
pretty
was,
significant.
yeah, it was powerful for the jury.
Yeah.
And whether or not, you know, because unfortunately their backs are to us, but she also happened to point to the government and all the agents that sit
Yes.
right behind the government. She said everyone in this room and everyone on the globe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, keep going. Everyone on the planet and all the other planets as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Remember, this is a big picture.
It's universal.
Yes,
cleanup.
that's right.
Multiversal. Okay.
Well, I don't know. BC, have we already gotten past it, or are you going to come to it? Because I think it's important while we're talking about this specific point to, well, see, now it's gone, so apparently it wasn't supposed to come out now anyway. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, why are you sorry? You didn't do anything. That's my brain.
Well,
Go ahead,
what
she
I'm gonna
lost her
do,
thought.
'cause we've
Never
been
mind.
talking for a while. We're almost at an hour, so I'm going to ask if there's any last, because your audio is terrible. So I can
I want
hear
to
you, see you, and feel you.
I want to go on record as saying that I am ever so grateful to be joined by these two ladies, because first of all, this one right here is such a great note taker, for heaven's sakes. Yes,
awesome.
I mean, we didn't even go through all the notes that she took, and
No.
she
Johnny on it.
and this one over here has been holding such focus and dedication to keeping the frequency at a specific level within the courtroom that I'm not sure what it is I'm doing. I think at this point I'm just kind of hanging out. But I feel privileged. I just want to say I feel very privileged to be with these ladies here. I really can't stress enough how thankful I am to you and to everyone who has either donated or even just paid attention and cared enough to share all of these broadcasts and to try to talk to folks about all of this, because you're right when you say how big this is. All those times I talked about standing on the precipice of something huge, I'm just starting to glimpse a eensy beensy bit of, and I hope with every fiber of my being that what I'm feeling right now is coming through, so folks will understand and truly take it in.
Yeah, they're getting.
This will never happen again. Not. You think?
Yeah, I'm just saying that they're getting it because you totally blew out the audio and the video. In addition to the interference that was coming in. So yeah, that's what it was, folks. Sheila just finished it off.
I knocked it out.
And that is what she's here for.
Okay.
I wasn't good enough. I did it at my house. I gotta do it over here in Knoxville too.
I'm gonna close it off because it translates fine for me. I get it on all ICOMs, but it's not gonna translate well for the general audience who's still scratching their head. I think we had them at probably the very first question I asked you. They're still scratching their head on that one. So anyways, more great expansion and hard openings coming later tonight, and then more tomorrow. So we'll see you for early morning check-in. And I'll make that phone call tonight that we talked about. So we'll be all set on that. And big hugs to you guys.
Will you please do me a favor and make sure this goes out to Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page? I appreciate that.
Yes. Do you even need to ask?
No, I know I don't, but I just want to say how much I appreciate that you're doing that for me.
Okay. Have a good night. See you in the morning.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.